Anthony.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
I had a question about I've been using the smudge tool a lot with the settings that you gave us. I just wanted to make sure that
Sweet.
I had the settings right because it's really useful. But I changed some stuff and now I can't remember what it was originally.
What do you got?
I got, okay, so the smudge brush, I got 20% spacing. And I wrote down
25% is what I had.
25%, okay.
If you want it exactly like mine. I don't think it makes as big of a difference.
hmm And then I wrote down 0% hardness, but I'm not sure what that means. This probably means the brush shape should be soft, right?
Yeah, it's 0% means it's airbrush pretty much.
Okay. And scattering at 30%.
Scattering
I guess
at,
spacing and scattering, you might have meant the same thing.
yeah,
And then,
scattering is 30%.
yeah.
Okay.
And then transfer on, but 0, 0, and set to pen pressure.
Yeah. And then uh
And,
and then your strength outside of it on the toolbar should be 20%.
okay. Yeah, that changed everything because I tried using the smudge tool before and it would take like 8 years to smudge anything.
Yeah. Because the smudge tool default, like it moves pixels. It's like kind of like a
hmm
liquefy in a brush.
hmm
But that's not what you want.
hmm
Yeah. But you got to be careful because that's how you get muddy edges.
hmm
If you use a smudge brush like you're, if you use smudge brush like you're painting or
hmm
penciling, sketch it like sketch style, you'll muddy up your values and your colors. But if
hmm
you use it like this, where if you just kind of do broad strokes, then it'll soften uniformly.
hmm Yeah, it definitely helps with values and like edge control.
Mm-hmm. So I use it.
hmm
All right, let's get this guy a yellow jacket because I like yellow. I'm starting to use more and more yellow these days. Any other questions, friends? Yellow is linked to schizophrenia. Schizophrenia? Is that how you spell it? Schizophrenia? Multiple personalities? Yeah, that looks more accurate. I don't know. I've never spelled the word before. I think Jason's more onto it. What is schizophrenia exactly? I forget. It's a type of schizophrenia? Is that what you're trying to get at? So you're saying that I have multiple personality because I like yellow? So how is this all tied to yellow? Is there any color attachment to orange with schizophrenia? Like having, orange tan or orange hair? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Orange skin.
The more yellow they used? Uh, yeah, I don't know if there's a correlation there. I don't have any disorientation or any disoriented thoughts. Could just be a coincidence.
Hey, I
What's up,
have a
bud?
question. I can't remember which I was listening to some guy on YouTube that I think he had a good point about.
Nope, he's wrong. I'm always right. Don't listen to any
Well,
other person. I am the best.
but you don't know if he'll agree or not.
Nope, I already disagree. I'm just kidding.
One of the guys had a question earlier about, not a question, but about how different styles that you observe confuse you
Uh-huh.
through a working process. And what happened to me was for example, I really liked this clean outline, like comic style,
Sure.
but it somehow does not feel right to me when I try to do it. I struggle with it too much, and I found peace in a different style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does it live in you, the style, or is can everything be taught?
Everything
I
can be
mean,
taught.
of course it can be taught, but you know, it felt
Oh
like
wait, hold on. What was the YouTube clip? I'm not sure seeing the correlation here. What
you
was?
know, like
Why did you refer to that?
I don't know. Could be the Cynics guy. Do you know?
Um, I don't know actually. I might know.
I think it's
Scenics Design that Jason just
that's
referred to.
right.
I've never
Maybe
heard
it's
of them.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
what did they say?
No, it's just that I really can't remember the details. It's just made me wonder for example, Cynthia's uh, drawings are awesome when they're uh, at the early stages, for example.
Just drawings.
And no, her designs were they looked polished and
Yeah, I remember
um,
commenting on that too. I said, as they were, just like the drawings of them, those work,
yeah, and then
right?
it to me it kind of feels like they shouldn't be rendered as uh, that they live in a different style reality. I can't explain myself
No, I understand what
properly.
you're saying. That's
Yeah,
why, if you remember, I asked her very specifically, do
yeah,
you want to paint? It's irrelevant whether it's makes it easier for her to just draw, right?
mm,
But if she only wants to draw, then I would have just told her don't even worry about painting. So
mm,
you see where I stand on this? My stance isn't so much about she should have rendered them. My stance was she wants to render them, so she should practice it.
mm.
Do you understand?
Yeah,
Because
I get it.
because that is the real point that you need to understand. Because just because it comes to you naturally um, doesn't mean that you should continue it if that's not what you want to do. There are things that people are naturally inclined with, and it has nothing to do with their original skill. So, for instance,
Mm.
there's an artist named Iris. She's really good, right? This is her style. This is amazing, correct?
Yeah,
But she took it upon herself to learn how to render, and her most recent paintings are like this. So,
yeah, I know the Schroombates
yeah,
actually.
so do you think that she was not able to do this before, or she just chose that this is something that she wanted to be good at and she just practiced it? See, obviously it's the latter, right? It's the latter option. She just decided this is something that she didn't want her limitations of just being like a kind of like a line artist
Mm.
hold her back from something that she actually did enjoy. She likes to do more illustrative stuff, and you can see how that all of a sudden now translates to her more stylized work.
Yeah, but for example, the one you showed, I really think it shows that she is more not comfortable, like knowing how to do it, but the simplified stuff of hers is kind of has more soul than the rendered environment, for example.
So you're saying that this is worse than this?
Not worse, but it's because it's awesome, but for her maybe, I don't know. Uh,
Yeah, step back for a second and ask yourself what you're really trying to say, all right? Because she did this recently, which I thought was amazing.
mm,
And and what I'm trying to get at is this is painted. It's stylized, but it has sense of form and lighting.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
okay.
And she would have not gotten there if she didn't practice her painting.
Yeah, I
That's what I'm
guess.
trying to get at. You know, she chose to learn how to paint better so she can do stuff like that. You understand? Otherwise, she would
Mm,
still be limited. That's the whole point. You know, and what I tell people is that it's okay though to just also be limited. You know, like if this is like if that's only thing you want to do is line art, right?
mm,
Then just do line art. Right? Let's see if we can find examples just right off the bat. Yeah, so this person has a relatively focused style, you know? And then they only get better and better from doing it, more and more of it, right?
mm,
And so my point is that, you know, if if you like that comic book style, right, and that's something that you want to do, but every time you attempt it, it's not that good or not as good as you would hope, okay?
yeah,
The question isn't so much about is this something that is inside of you, right? The more appropriate question is this something that you want to pursue? And if the answer is yes, then ask yourself the following, the most obvious question, the question that I ask you guys all the time, is how
mm,
much have you actually invested in learning this? And
yeah,
that
yeah.
and that will almost always be certainly the revealing
Not enough.
factor. Yeah, that will always reveal why you're so bad. Almost every time. Like very rarely will I have a student say, "Oh, but I actually practice that 10 hours a day every day and I'm still bad at it." Like never, I don't think I've ever heard that. Never have I had a student tell me this. It's always the opposite. It's always, "Oh, I barely do it." And then I'm like, "Well, that's why you're not so good at it." Do you
Mm,
understand? But there's a difference though. There is a point to be made to what you're trying to say, which is that if you do prefer like a certain style or aesthetic, you know, and you're just
mm,
learning other styles and aesthetics just to sharpen the other one, that's fine too, you know. But just know what you're in for, like what you really want to be accelerated in, you know.
mm,
So, for instance, with me, I love Pixar movies. I love stylized artwork, right?
mm,
But I clearly do not have any intention, at least not for now, to to make that the bulk of my work. I focused on things that I actually enjoy, which is technique. I love to be technically good at stuff, you know? And and as a consequence of that, being photorealistically inclined is where I happen to fall, right? I was always fascinated with how much faster, how much better, how much more efficient can I be with my
mm,
tools, you know? And that's just who I am, and I am totally cool with that, right? Now,
mm,
does that mean I can't be amused by comic book style or photorealistic or not photorealistic? Of course not. I can look at art and just see it for what it is. If it's good, it's good. If it's not good, it's not good. You know? Doesn't
mm,
matter of the style or uh, even the technique. And that's why I don't, you know, lose sleep if I'm not painting like Pixar style stuff. You know, 'cause even though I enjoy it, because I just if I really wanted to do it, I would do it already. But I clearly really don't want to. You know?
you're waiting for Lasseter to call.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, only recently have I been interested in more stylized stuff because I'm getting into game development,
Mm,
and it just seems to me that I'll be able to push the envelope if I can have more style to my art. all right? And I could focus on games rather than the art, you know? Because right now that's my focus. It's not so much art, it's game dev, you know? And game dev doesn't necessarily need good art or like amazing art. But I realize that what I can have an advantage over is quality of that art, you know, versus some of my uh, um, some of the same people in the same field as me that I'm trying to get into, right? Like that's something that I know I can bring that they can't because I've put a lot of time into this, you know?
we at our firm are also developing some games, and
Hmm.
I, um, to me it seems like it's the art style you choose for a game. Does it change the public you're trying to speak to? For example, it could go either way, the game of yours, but it has this cute girly character, but it could also be a zombie. But I guess it would have different
Yeah.
users.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so for me it's a game that's going to be made for my daughter, right?
yeah.
And I've reconsidered how I'm going to approach it because since it's for my daughter, although I love my daughter and it means a lot to me to make something for her, my interest level on it is very low to keep pushing on it, right?
Yeah.
And so what I've decided is like I'm gonna have her help me design it, and so that way it's more of a family project rather than just me making it. Like I want her to feel like she's a part of it too. And
Mm.
so I want her to design the characters so that way I don't have to worry about it. I just like let her do it and I'll make a 3D version of that model or her artwork and then just put it in the game, you know? And I
Mm.
think it will inherently will just be cute because of that. And so, um, and she has ideas, you know, she's all these different ideas of what she wants the game to do, right? And I actually was trying to teach her like how difficult it was just to even make one like character. And I had her
Mm.
model, like I was teaching her some modeling, and she was like, "I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't." And I was like, "Yeah, so you got to stop telling Papa to make this and that because it's not very easy." Because she was demanding all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was like, "Sweetheart," I was like, "I'll do it, but you have to let me give me some time. Like I have to learn how to do this, you know." And she just, I guess she wasn't understanding it, and so I had to like the best way to teach is to have people do it. And so I had her do it, and she's immediately starting to understand the gravity of how to make a video game. You know, so now she's a little bit more intelligent about it. But my point is to your statement is yeah, if you want to make a game made for children, then you have to understand what children are into, obviously, and what is good and what's not good. It's like the same argument that I always tell people about like Cars, because people say it's like the worst Pixar movie franchise,
Yeah.
but yet it's like the one that makes the most money and merchandise.
Mm.
You know, I have no other Pixar merchandise for my kids other than cars, or like for my boy specifically. Like he has nothing but car toys. Like
Mm.
he has Lightning McQueen toys all over the place. And when we saw the trailer for the third one, he lost his shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's so realistically rendered. I'm really excited to see where they chose to go with this one.
No, it's still a kids film, and you're probably gonna hate it.
Yeah.
And then and it's because you're not a kid, dude. You know, like that's as simple as that. Like it's like, you know, just because like do you like Ghost in the Shell?
I haven't seen it yet.
No,
Maybe
like
the
the
movie.
original film, or like how about this? Do you like Akira? Have you ever seen Akira?
Uh, the comics I've seen.
Okay, you read the comics. That's fine. That's good enough.
Uh,
Um, so that's like um, in Western societies, it's like it's not that popular. Okay,
yeah.
you'd be considered a nerd for even mentioning it, right? In Japan, though, it would be a different story, right?
Mm.
But like here in the States, yeah, you're a nerd, right? But you'd be like, what are you talking about? Akira is amazing, you know? Because it is
But
for you and
for,
our audience, the people that live in that camp, you know? But then, you know, you'd laugh at people that are into Twilight, for instance, but it's
That'll do.
yeah, and that's the point. I was like, that's the common ground is that people have their things that they're into, even if we disagree with them. And you have yours too. There might be a thing that is just super stupid and silly that
Yeah, for sure.
you can like objectively understand why people would criticize you for liking it. That's why people use words like
Guilty
guilty
pleasure.
pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they know they shouldn't like it, but they love it. you know,
I,
and
I think I'm too old for this. It's just something you get to learn when you get older that it's
yeah,
stupid to have this
yeah.
prejudice.
When you're a kid, you're like, yeah, you're totally prejudiced more so than you're adults. Exactly, I agree. And because you start to realize as you get older, um, that everyone has their thing and they're allowed to have it. Like I remember when Ninja Turtles came out, like all my coworkers were losing their minds. They're just like so pissed. They're like, "Ah, it looks so bad. Like why did they give him nostrils?" I remember that was an argument. Like that was the heart of one of the arguments. and I looked at my colleagues and I was like, "You're complaining about giant mutated teenage turtles that know kung fu, that are ninjas, that live under the sewers, whose favorite food is pizza, and they are trained in the arts of kung fu by a giant rat, and their main villain that they fight is a guy that's covered in metal named Shredder.
Yeah.
That they have nostrils. That's your complaint. He's like, turtles, real turtles actually have nostrils. You know that, right? And so,
Is
anyways,
it true that I'm not that into comics though, that this one was actually originally done to mock the comics, that the authors were trying to figure out the stupidest possible
yes,
uh,
they were
story.
trying to be ironic. Yes,
Yeah.
like turtles being ninjas and they're teenagers and they're like mutants. It's silly. And
Yeah.
then people latched onto that silly. They thought it was actually really cool,
Mm.
you know? Because turtles are kind of cool looking. They are. And ninjas are always cool. And so then just like them
What's
being,
not to like?
yeah, them being teenagers is where the humor comes from. They're kind of silly, right? Like they're really immature. And so all the irony that was wrapped around that franchise is what makes it great, right? What makes
Mm.
people love it. So like my friends and colleagues were like pissed because they're thinking about their childhood and they're like, my child, like our Ninja Turtles. That was the good stuff. And every time I hear that, and you should be aware of that too, everybody, all of y'all. As soon as you say something like, "Man, it used to be better back in whatever," right? Realize that you have fallen to the old person saying, like back in my
Back in my
day,
day.
there was this, and let's just be clear here. Historically speaking, people when they say that are almost always wrong. Historically speaking, okay. Like there's a lot of Americans that are very conservative and they want to kind of preserve old American ideals. And let's just be clear here, old American ideals are flawed. Okay, and and that's the problem. That's the problem with conservative thinking at its extreme. And it's because it's just not true anymore. Back in my day, like my dad could say honestly, he could say like back in my day, um, being an African American was much more difficult than it is today, right? And that's the opposite way of thinking about it. And that's just how you should think of it. That's almost always true. Like I always try to think, what can my daughter and my baby boy, my baby girl, my baby boy could do? They would walk in to my house, right? Like what can they do that I would be like, what have you done? right? Because right now I can't imagine it, you know? Because I feel a little bit more progressive than most, right? But like for me, if I got a tattoo, my parents would have flipped out or a piercing.
Mm.
And that's like nothing. It's really not a big deal. And and so I'm thinking like, okay, like what would be like not a big deal to my children's generation, but would be such a big deal to me. And I thought about it and I was like, what it would be? It would be if my daughter came home and she got rid of her arm and she replaced it with like a augmented robot arm.
Oh no, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And so like or she just had no arm. Like maybe she just had no arm. She came in, she had like no arm. And I'm like, what? What happened to your arm? Where did you do with it? You know? And she's like, Dad, what are you flipping out for? Everyone, we don't need arms anymore. Remember, we use cerebral circuitry. Everything we use telepathic powers to do stuff these days. You know? And I'm like, oh, you know what?
Back in my
Yeah,
days.
maybe I don't need my arm anymore. Like this arm is kind of inefficient. I'm just gonna replace it. Yeah, I'm gonna get an augmented arm, so that's a little bit more reliable, you know, and paint and draw faster. Like just like just get rid of the limits of my muscles and pain. You know, I was like, you know what, daughter, you're right. So I was like, even that would have been kind of, I would have been alright with, or like if she would have like hive mind herself with someone else's like mind, like that would be really crazy. And I'll be like, maybe that is cool too. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really trying to imagine what could my daughter do that would just blow my goddamn mind. Because everything else would be, I'm pretty progressive. Like if she was, like if she was a lesbian, for instance, or a transgendered person, or she, like some of the most extreme things I can think of today that people flip out over, I would totally be all
Mhm.
right with. Like I have no problems with any of those types of things that she would want to do if she wanted. Like she decided she's a boy, I'd be like, all right, that's fine, you know.
Cool.
And if my son decided that he was a girl, that like if my daughter decided that she was a boy who was gay, right, which is a thing. There's like transgender people who they are women that are attracted to men, but they don't feel comfortable being in a woman's body. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
Like that exists. It sounds crazy, but it's like it's a thing. And so then if she was like that, right, which is pretty crazy and pretty extreme, I would totally be supportive and not even bat an eyelash on that, right? I would totally be
Mhm.
there for her. And so that's what I'm trying to say. I can't picture it. But historically speaking, guys, like whenever you hear colleagues or friends say stuff like that, do a double take and be like, is that true? You know, like, is it bad? So for instance, even like with like people flipping out that the world's going to shit, that's not entirely accurate. Like, yes, we see all these terrible things happening, but ask yourself, that's probably why we're living in better times, is because we're seeing terrible stuff happen and people are talking about it. Before, terrible stuff happened all the time, but nobody knew about it, you know? Like all this
Mhm.
terrible stuff that's happening in overseas in different countries. Yeah, people had a good sense of that bad stuff was happening, but now people could see it, and then that's different, you know? People can see how like corrupt governments are in some of these countries, especially in our own, right? We're actually seeing it. Like a lot of people are starting to say, wait a minute, that's corrupt as fuck, you know? And we didn't have that before. Like, and I love when people come at me and they're like, well, Obama did this, Obama did that. And I'm like, dude, you are going off the assumption that I was an Obama supporter. Like, I don't, if Obama did all those terrible things, I say yes, that is also equally as bad. It's like the point
Mhm.
is that we're now seeing it, you know? Like Obama like bombed the shit out of all these different countries just as much as every other president before him. And I'm saying, why are we doing this in the first place? It's just bad. It's bad when Bush did it. It's bad when Clinton did it. It's bad when Obama did it. And it's bad when Trump does it. It's just now everyone's like, how did we even let this even happen in the first place? You know?
Mhm.
And so, which is actually a positive thing in my perspective. And I think it's already demonstrating people are starting to turn the tide. So yeah, the back in my day um, comment, always double take on that, right? And you'll see yourself improve much faster if you do that more often, right? Be uh be skeptical, right? But also be skeptical of your skepticism. It's like Inception, right? And you'll see yourself progress a lot faster. Like I improve dramatically because I know that I'm so stupid. Like I know that I don't know enough. Uh,
Yeah,
and
assume the worst.
Yeah, and so as long as I can keep digging for the information, I improve more and more and more. And
Thanks for your time. I'll be off so that someone else gets to ask a question.
yeah, but let's go back to your first statement, and I just want to kind of clarify because I don't want
Yeah,
to.
okay.
We get a little distracted, and that's mostly my fault. Um, and one of the things I would say is that ask yourself a very simple question whenever it comes to like your own personal work and whether you want to do something or not. Okay, and it's as simple as this: if there's something that you like that you see some other artists do, right? Um,
Mm.
and you think it's really cool, ask yourself a very simple question: is do you want to do that as well? Okay, and if the answer is yes, then do it, practice it.
Mhm.
Okay, and if the answer is no, like oh, I would love to do that, and I don't mean like a grand I love, right? Like oh, like I would love to be astrophysicist, right? Like I love
Yeah.
science and stuff like that. I love stars and space and all that great things, you know. Um, but I'd prefer just making video games. I prefer just teaching and concept art and all that kind of stuff, right? And so then I spend my time doing that instead. You see, it doesn't mean that I'll never ever try science out, you know.
Mm.
But my point is that I am trying to focus on one thing at a time, and I answer myself this question is okay. So let's do the tests. So do I love the thing? I love science. Great. And then the second question that I follow through with is, okay, now do I want to devote a lot of time and effort into doing it and becoming really great at it? And then the answer is no, then I don't do it. And I don't get upset about it, right? So let's apply this to game development. Like, do I want to make games? Yes, right? Uh, and am I willing to devote a lot of time and effort into this? Yes. So then I do it, right? When I discovered web gaming, I was like, okay, this could be where what I've been looking for in an even more exponential rate, right? Do I want to do web games? Yes. Do I want to spend a lot of time and effort into this? Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
so, all right, let's do it. And see, the first one led to the second one. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I went to concept art, I was like, do I want to do concept art? Yes. Do I want to devote a lot of time and effort? Absolutely. In fact, all my time and effort is going to go into this. That's what I did when I first started, and I got really good at it. But as I was going good at it, I saw that there was different genres like character, environments, and vehicles and props, and within that there was different styles. You see, and so every time I came to a fork in the road, I just made a choice, and that fork led me to a more specific goal. That led me to inevitably to being a character concept artist that paints mostly in realistic attributes and focuses mostly on like monsterish characters, alienish characters, creature-like characters, to robotic and mech-like characters, to just your general fantasy characters, right? So even
Mm.
those are like that's even in itself is very focused, you know.
Mm. Cool.
And so yeah, if you want to do the comic book style, right, then just do it. You know, but ask yourself that second question. Do you want to spend some time and effort to really get good at it? And if the answer is
Nah.
yes, then do it. If the answer is nah, then don't worry about it. Yeah, no, and it's totally
Yeah,
fine. Like you're not being complacent, you're just being honest with yourself. Okay?
mm,
Because and then that way when you're bad at it, you're not going to complain about it. You just be like, well, I'm just not good at it because I don't put a lot of time and effort in it, and I don't really care about doing that. You know?
yeah.
And it's that
There,
simple. It's really that simple.
there's this dude I'm trying to plug in every now and a while. Sir Ken Robbins. His TED talk is awesome on how school kills creativity. And he also wrote a book with interviews with people who got famous or good at what they do in some kind of unconventional ways. And one that sits in these stories, he went to hear a pianist, a very famous one, and after the concert he said to him, "Oh, I would also like to play the piano as good as you do. And the pianist said to him, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because if you did, you'd be already doing it.
Yeah, that's great. I love that response. That's perfect. That's exactly kind of what I'm getting at. It's not
Yeah.
a matter of want. It's a matter of, no, I'm sorry. It's not a matter of just wanting to do it. It's a matter of being honest about that want, right?
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, because if you really wanted to do it, you just do it. Exactly. Absolutely. And that's what I focus
Okay.
on. Like, I don't focus on whether you're good or not. That's irrelevant. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, you being good or bad at something is irrelevant. What we need to focus on is if you want to do it. And that's why going back to Cindy, you know, she wants to paint. So I told her,
Mm.
this is what you're going to have to do to get good at painting. And as you saw, she's getting better at it. Right now, you might be like, well, I still think the other stuff is good. But if we gauge her on her skill today versus what she could be in the future, it's short-sighted. Because,
No,
you know what I mean? Like, if Sydney in 2 or 3 years from now, if she keeps it up, she might be the most amazing stylized painter. You know what I mean?
I didn't want to diss Cindy.
Nope,
at
too
all.
late.
I just
You
thought
and
that her
Sydney have to
character,
brawl. You and Sydney have to fight after class.
I just thought that her characters live in a different reality,
Yeah.
different style
Oh,
reality.
and you're
Okay.
right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're right. It's just the point I'm trying to make is for now.
Mm.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Anyways, any other questions,
Cool.
y'all?
Yeah, yeah. Bye.
It was a good discussion, though. Don't feel bad. Did anyone write a question? Because I didn't read any of them. If you did, just blurt it out. And if you're one of those mic people or no mic people, just write it again. Jason.
I've got one.
Yeah, what's up, bud?
Um, Working in the industry is like this mentorship, like I mean timings and stuff.
No, it's all contextual, meaning that if you're able to do the stuff that I asked you to do for this class, then you're pretty capable of doing the real work. Aside from if you had a hard time finishing the final parts of the assignment, then you have to consider
Hmm.
that's something that your weakness in terms of the work. Because what if your boss wanted you to have it all done by today? Like,
Hmm.
it's okay for you guys to not do it in the class because, you know, you're just trying to learn, trying to get better. But you have to understand that, you know, the consequence of not finishing it is more severe for real work,
Hmm.
which I think none of you guys are confused about. But it all depends because some studios want your work done in a day at the quality that I was demanding of you in a month. And then some
Oh.
clients want you to do it as long as it takes, which can take 2 or 3 months, you know? It just depends on
Hmm.
who you work for. But on a grandstand, working for film is like that, where they want things like yesterday kind of attitude. In
Hmm.
games, it's a little bit longer, right? Working in game development, at least some large game studios. But in either or, like there's exceptions. But overall, from my personal experience and what I've seen, um, they expect you to in video games on general, they expect you to just work on it until like they'll have more time. There's no infinite deadline, of obviously, but there is definitely a finite deadline in all cases, but it's just a little bit spread out in games or even animation.
Hmm.
You know, come in,
Yeah.
and so when you're working in for film, like they have such a tight turnaround, like so they need all the concepts like yesterday. You know.
Hmm.
And so it all depends on who you work for. So I generally tell people try to finish a piece of artwork within a week's time, like from start to
Hmm.
finish, from thumbnail to iterations to completion. And that's just like one character, you know?
Okay.
Like I was asking you guys to do a few characters. Hold on just a second. Are you guys going to play in here? I thought you guys need to go potty. Go back into the living room, mamas. I'm still teaching. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Delilah. I thought they had to use the restroom, but they just came in here and started playing. I think they're bored. But um, where was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, different studios demand different things, and always. Okay, that's just always going to be true.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, if you can do a week's worth of work, you're going to be well tailored for most situations.
Okay,
Okay.
then I have a goal.
Yeah, because and most of you guys are, to be honest. There's different stages too. Some studios are much have less of a demand of quality, not because they don't want good work, it's just because they can't afford good work, you know? So they can afford, let's say,
Mhm.
a more junior leveled artist, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and just because you get a junior level entry job doesn't mean that you're no good. It's just that's where you start. Everything takes time. I took junior level entry jobs, you know? I still
Mhm.
take junior level entry jobs and charge relatively reasonable rates. I just work so quickly that I can do it. The way that I do it is basically I say, hey, look, um, like you can only pay me $500 for this character design. I said I'm only going to put in 5 to 10 hours at the max, and you're just gonna have to be happy with it, you know, uh, because any hour
Yeah.
after that is going to go be dipping into into my rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then I tell them that, and then they're like, "Oh, okay," you know, and usually they're happy with the result, right? Usually they do not complain because my rate is upwards of $50 to $100 an hour, depending on who I'm working with,
Mhm.
right? And so, and I can pay quickly, so like I can get stuff done in an hour, and it's like $100. It's not a bad deal for some smaller studios if they aren't super picky. It's the super picky people that want me to iterate and iterate and iterate that I start getting paid some big bucks. But it's like they could have made it cheaper for themselves too if they just made choices sooner. You know?
Mhm. Well, good to know.
Yeah. So it all depends on, like I said, it all depends on who you're working for. But a good gauge is can you do a completed piece of like character artwork in about a week from start to finish. Iterations, thumbnailing, designing, alterations, and then polishing it up.
But for on the first stages, when we have to do the ideas and stuff, we should do 20 thumbnails or with 5 or 10 for
You
one
should do
character.
as many. You should do as many as you need to.
Okay.
I personally do upwards of six or 10. I don't do 20. But the difference between me is that I've already done tens of thousands of thumbnails. So those
Yeah.
6 to 20 aren't technically not 6 to 20 or 6 to 10 are not necessarily technically 6 or 10. You know what I mean? Like I've
Mhm.
already designed so many variations in my past that adds up. So like my starting designs are almost always going to be already a variation of some sort, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So for a lot of you guys who are just starting out, you should do a lot because you still need to get a lot of that out of your system, the generic designs, you know?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Here's a
Yeah.
good analogy for you guys. You know, Pablo Picasso. Have you guys heard of him? He's a pretty good artist. He um, he was at like an art gallery and was asked to do a concept and or not a concept, a painting or drawing for this lady, and she said she'll pay him whatever. She'll pay him like $100 for just like even just like a 10-second sketch, you know, or a 30-second sketch. And so, or just a sketch. She didn't time it. She just said a sketch. He's the one that did it only in 30 seconds, right? So he spent 30 seconds on this painting, okay?
Mhm.
And then he painted it. And then after he was done painting it, or not painting, after he was done drawing it, he gave it to her and it took him about like, yeah, 30 seconds, okay? And then she looked at it and she was like dumbfounded. She's like, I can't believe how quickly you did this. It's like, it only took you 30 seconds. And he looked at her and he's like, 30 seconds? It's more like 30 years. Get it? And so
Yeah.
that's the kind of the point. Like when I do like a 10-minute sketch, it's not really a 10-minute sketch, you know? It's like a 10-year sketch. Okay?
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I would encourage you guys to do more than less, always. And eventually you'll start to get really good, and you'll understand like how to start off with good variations,
Hmm.
that are worth looking at, and then you can do fewer and fewer. So that way you can keep the options more limited, but good. Like good but limited options is a good place to be. You don't want to have only one option. You want to have a few that are good variants. And whenever I submit, like recently I actually just submitted like one design to a client, and as I was submitting it, I was just like, I feel like I should have done a couple more, you know? But he was asking
Yeah.
for something very uniquely different, so it's kind of, he was asking for like an animation, so I just designed something to animate. And
Hmm.
I was just kind of like, I should have done two variations of the animation as well. You know what I'm saying? Like that's in my hearts of hearts. So I'm like right now, like crossing my fingers since I didn't submit multiple designs. Do you understand?
Hmm.
I know better. So I'm not going to be shocked if he comes back and says, hey, can we do some variants? In fact, I'm prepared for it. I'm already kind of mentally prepared to do some more drawings, you know?
Hmm.
It's just good practice. It doesn't matter whether you're a professional or not. You should always have a lot of variations.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, totally. Any other questions, y'all?
Hey, Anthony.
What's up, bud?
Hey, I just have a comment. I just want to say thank you, man, for like the great insight and the great experience for you doing this. This has been like the best class I've ever taken online.
Oh, man, thank you.
Um, yeah, man. I mean, it's just like the insight and the knowledge that, and it's not just like, professional, but it's also, pretty kind of personal, which is phenomenal because not a lot of, teachers tend to do that. And it gets lost in like, okay, this is what we're going to do. But, the other stuff that you normally talk about, with personal and like, it's just phenomenal, man. So it was
Thanks.
definitely worth every single penny. Yeah.
Well,
So
let me just say, man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
mm,
I, I, I see it this way. You guys spent money to take my course, right? That money goes to
mhm,
me. That money that I then spend on my family and myself to have a decent lifestyle, right? We live very modestly and we live very comfortably because of people like you guys. So it's very
mhm,
important that I invest back into you. That's the way I see it. And the
mhm,
way that I see it, what I mean by that is like saying that because one day you guys will all be badasses and really good artists, that one day you will teach hopefully the same sort of insight or same kind of pattern of insight to other artists to help them achieve the kinds of goals that they want. Because here's the thing, man, like I've done lots of workshops, I've talked to lots of artists, and I've been to lots of workshops and I've had lots of great teachers. And one thing that I found was more valued, the kinds of things that I've learned more was from just talking to these artists rather than having them teach me. And what I mean by that is one time I went to a workshop and this artist was talking about color, and it was really dry and it was not as informative as I was hoping. And it was because it was mostly just about painting. And although I learned something from just watching him, I didn't necessarily learn something from him talking about it. Um, I thought it was kind of lackluster. But then afterwards, I talked to the artist, right? I talked to him, and he talked to me, and he was telling me about the industry and his experiences and all this stuff, and that was like crazy insightful and really educational. And I was like, why didn't he do more of that, less of the other thing? Um, yeah, hold on just a second, Delilah. Okay. And so what I ended up realizing is like there needs to be more educational platforms that do that rather than just teaching you how to paint and draw. There is plenty and plenty of great um, resources out there for you guys to just learn how to paint, including my own, right? I have literally tutorials. It's like, this is how you paint. It's like step by step. And a lot of people, that's how they find me because even those step by steps are still insightful. See, the reason why I haven't taught like coding, or the reason why I haven't taught game design or mechanics or how to use engines and stuff, even though I'm pretty good at it, right? It's because I'm not good enough to explain why I do it, you know? And I know that's more important than just showing you how to do it. A lot of the tutorials that I see now, I can see that's like, again, it's like the same problem that I had in art school. Again, it's this step by step by step, this is how you do it, with very little explanation why it's so valuable you understand it. And
Oh yeah, definitely.
and
For sure.
once I have like that full understanding, I will be really good at teaching it to others, and people will actually be able to make substance from that. And so I really, really appreciate that comment. I do.
Yeah, man, because
Hold on, before you finish that thought, hold on to that thought. I need to go help my daughter. She just pooped. I need to wipe her booty. Give me 1 second.
okay.
All right, so go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was gonna say that, I mean, the main reason why I took the, mentorship was, like you said, to get you, your insight, and because, going to school, like you said, is very step by step, and they don't really explain to you why that works. So, like, you do this, but why are you doing that to get this result? So, a lot of those things are kind of vague and kind of like, going to the wind, and, so by the explanation, it's it's great. So
Yeah.
it pretty much put me into, and I don't know if it's just me, but it put me into like a path. And I felt before taking the class, I felt a little lost because that and
Well, you're breaking up for a second. I'm not sure what's going on. Hey, yeah, you're
also,
cutting out now. Hello? Hello?
can you get me? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead and talk now. I think
Hello?
it's better now.
Hello? Yeah, I'm driving, sorry. And so what I was saying is that, at school, it's just very vague information, and just the fact that you kind of breaking it down even, more chunkier, little pieces, it was very insightful. So it put me in a more of a track path than just trying to do everything and not learning anything, because most of the time I was just like, trying to learn, but I wasn't learning because it's just like too much going on, and then plus life and, other stuff. So, I appreciate that. So.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that. Well, like, let me make it abundantly clear that a lot of educational platforms that are institutionalized, they fail to do this one simple thing, which is to sculpt people's abilities to adapt, right? They don't teach people necessarily how to adapt, or to learn how to adapt, or to expand their ability well beyond their educational platform. And the reason why this is important, and this is why I spend a lot of time making sure you guys understand some fundamental ideas, is because let's say you go to a four-year college and they're teaching you techniques and technology that will literally be replaced by the time you graduate, or will be upgraded, and you have to learn all of a sudden a whole new set of things. This is like a common issue, dude, and people need to teach how to be prepared for that, and not only that, to teach them like how to adapt to changes and how to accelerate your career well beyond the first inkling of your job. Like a lot of schools don't even teach how to be successful accurately. They have teachers who've never themselves been successful and now teach other students how not to be successful. And then, so you got to get that thing right. But then once the schools that do that, there's some schools that don't do the second part, which I think is also very important, is teach people how to be prepared for success, which means, because it's inevitable if you guys work at it, you guys are all going to be successful. It's just inevitable. But the second part is that, what do you do with that success? That's something that a lot of people do not teach. And that's something I try to teach. And I'm glad that you recognize that, and I appreciate you. And thanks, bud.
Yeah, man. Definitely. You're welcome.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, Alex said, hey, AJ, just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, I want to thank you for early days of starting out traditional digital painting because I'm following you for a long time. So it was a great, inspiring journey. You have a really big influence on my work from early on. So first of all, huge thanks. Live streams, all that stuff. Podcast that you did because you are one of the rare artists that give free tutorials to the industry a long time ago and a huge influence on countless artists, including me and my many friends that I know. Since then, I just achieved one of my goals, and that is to buy this mentorship and have a great experience and grow as I had. I learned a crazy amount of stuff, so I'm incredibly grateful and for everything. Well, you're welcome too, Alec. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, appreciate you guys from being inspired. So let me tell you something. Let me tell you something that a lot of like some pretentious and some elitist type artists that are out there don't know that I know. This is what keeps me humble, keeps me modest. I'll teach you guys something. Keep it with you. You guys ready? Everybody gets good in time. So it's very short-sighted to treat a student like trash. You understand me? Because everybody, if they just keep working at it, will become really good. And if not just really good, they might actually become some of the leaders in the industry. Okay? And so knowing that fact, if you have no kind bone in your heart and you don't really care about others, at least trust that that fact is true. And so it's actually bad strat to treat people like crap. Now, obviously, I didn't know that when I was starting out. Or, I mean, I didn't think about that. Of course, it makes sense if you think about it. But I didn't think about that. I just, wanted to try to get a job. So I was trying to talk to people who can help me with that. But what I realized, too, is that, be kind to people because just making friends with people is also pretty important. And that's the way I thought about it. I thought about it in a more honest and more earnest way is make friends and keep in touch and try to be helpful to other people. And then that consequently, like, has helped my career dramatically. I have met many people. I've been kind to so many people, and that kindness and that help has made me an exceptional artist amongst my peers because people can see that I'm not trying to. There's no agenda, and that's why I have a lot of people that are still close friends of mine, and they talk to me often, and we talk often, and they don't really. They see me for what it is. It's really transparent. And I think that goes a longer way than just being good, because being good at art it's just a matter of time and effort. And so uh, when I hear comments like that, I am very glad that I've never let go of my morals. And I would highly encourage is actually not only is it good strats to be, a kind person to people as on a human level, it's good strats also at a professional level. Because imagine you guys all treat each other well. You guys just did it not because there was no malice or, I'm sorry, intention. You guys just did it because you guys were in the same class. You guys shared the same time slot. So there's that commonality, and you guys all want to be concept artists. So you guys trying to become better artists with each other. And some of you guys, Blaj makes fun of Cindy. He makes fun of her all the time, and he thinks that, she could be better. I'm just kidding, Blush. I know you don't think that, but I'm just making a joke here. But like one day, Cindy could be art director for one of the greatest animated films that could ever exist. And the fact that Blanche was so mean to her and slandered her in class in front of everybody, means that he won't have those opportunities when she's hiring a team of artists to work on a project. She will deliberately make the project comic book style, so that way you can't even work on it, even if you wanted to. But no, like seriously, like one of my students designed the Goliath for a game called Evolve, and I went to E3 the year that it was coming out, and I went to their booth, and they had a 2-story tall sculpture. They had like a 2-story sculpture of his design, and I like nearly went into tears because it was so amazing. I was so proud, you know. And now he's like working at Sony, and he's kicking butt there. And I have many stories like that. You know, some of you guys know Milan, right? Some of you guys are good friends with him. He's another good example. Like he's doing like the short film, and now all this like stuff is happening that's really great, and people reached out to them. They want to kind of work with them. I try to help them now. I was talking to them the other day. I was like, careful, man. Hollywood's out to get you. They don't give a fuck about your project. Don't think that they do. I was like, just make it awesome and just always have the leverage. But you know, he's gonna do some amazing stuff and kick some ass, man. It's just how it works. It's just how it works. And he's a good friend of mine, and he'll always keep in touch with me. He'll always reach out to me, and just as much as I'll reach out to him to help me out if I need help. And it's because we don't see each other as student and mentor. We just see each other as people, and he's a good person. He's friends. And although some of you guys are better than others, and some of you guys are, you know, not as far along as you'd like to be, that's all temporary. And so it's very important that you just keep at it, and that one day you guys will be exceptional and amazing artists amongst one another. I have a strong hypothesis that in about a year and a half from now, there's going to be a huge flux of Robotpencil alumni in the industry kicking some serious ass. And it's already happening. I already have a lot of students kicking some serious ass in the industry, and it's only going to grow because I teach so many goddamn people so often. And eventually the whole industry will have at least one Robotpencil person or was influenced by one of my tutorials or streams. And that's what makes me happy, to know that I am contributing to the greater good of the industry. And now I'm on to making games, because the way that I see it is once I make really good games, I can teach people how to make games. So I can not only teach people how to be good artists, I can teach people how to make their own IPs in a very practical way. Yes, that's exactly right. All right, is there any final questions before I roll out? It's already getting late, but this is the last class. But my children, I can tell, are starting to get real hungry. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. No, thank you guys. Absolutely. Well, hey guys, it was nice teaching you guys. I'm sure I'll see you guys around regardless. And with that being said, what I would highly advise is you try to do your best for next Friday. Submit to me some more work on Friday of next week, please. Okay? And then I'll comment on it, and then, you know, use the Discord to communicate with others and hang out with others and make friends outside of the class, and just keep painting. And one day I'll see you guys as credits in the movie, I'm sure, or a project of some sort. With that, laters, y'all. And I'll be sending you guys the link to the class very, very soon, so that way you guys can download every lesson. Laters.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.